Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2019 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from McGilvery Speedway at 30th and High School in the beautiful town of Speedway, Indiana. And keep McGilvery's in mind when you come in for the PRI show. Come out to the west side. It's only about 2 miles west of the Speedway. Come on in. You got great food, great service, and the adult beverages are ice cold. If you have computer problems, which I am having again, you got to check out Computer Overdrive, the home of the free check. They will check your machine out and tell you what needs to be done and tell you what it'll cost you. So call them up. The number is 317-328-0766. And do you need dental work? Well, if you do, there's only one place to go. Dr. Jack Miller and Dr. Liz Lewis have the Indy Dental Group. They are phenomenal. Their staff is phenomenal. You will love it. So make an appointment. Give them a call at 317-846-6125. And if you haven't been to the museum yet to see the Mario Andretti display, it's getting close to the end of it. So get on over there. And when you go in the front desk, you will see this lovely blonde sitting there. Tell her that I've been hounding you for so long that you finally came out to see it. Both of you. I'm sure everyone has heard about the sale of the Speedway. We'll discuss that a little bit upcoming.
What? Really? No way.
It was just announced today that there is, in 2021, there's going to be an autonomous car race at the Speedway. There's colleges and universities from all over the world coming to participate. It'll be on October 23rd of 2021, and the winning prize is $1 million. So you can bet your bippy there are going to be a lot of schools here to do that. Got to wish a happy birthday to our friend Kenny Smith, who is suffering in the heat down in Florida. So happy birthday, Kenny, and I hope you get a sunburn that doesn't get cured for a month. Steve Mino, who's generally here with his lovely bride sitting, has had his second eye operation today. He is sitting home suffering because he's not allowed to read, so I hope he can watch. They're watching live tonight. Steve, I hope you get back real quick. And I can't say enough about my friend who's up here tweeting with the cameras again, Ted. Today's a holiday. His staff was off today. They couldn't come and help, and he, with a tiny, tiny bit of assistance from me, made everything work. So we got to thank Ted for that. And don't forget, tomorrow starts the Christmas Gift and Hobby Show at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. It runs from tomorrow through Wednesday on the 10th, or Sunday the 10th. They got all kinds of good goodies. It's in the West Pavilion. It's the largest holiday shopping event in the area. They got all kinds of stuff. Merrier with money, merry money. They got time for Santa's selfies. Or got the elves building and doing things for little kids. You'll love it. So get on out there, and if there's 3 of you that want to go, I have 3 tickets left. And don't forget, Beepline. Remember, you're never on hold with Beepline. They will be here November 16th, live and in color. Nice. And if they're lucky, and I don't know if they are lucky or not, but if they are, Phil Kaiser will be with them. I'm not sure he doesn't have to have some surgical repair done or something. I don't know. But he should be there. Now, my first 2 guests are 2 gentlemen that I am very happy to have, and they will probably have 1 or 2 things to say. Sitting at the far end of the table is one of the 2 writers for Trackside Online. His primary thing is to cover the Road to Indy program, but when Patrick has to stay home because he now has kids, he takes care of that as well. They are very well respected in the paddock. When they ask a question, they get a straight answer. And strangely enough, they write sometimes and report what they heard. Please welcome Mr. Steve Wittich. And so-and-so sitting next to him,
so-and-so,
who doesn't like my paperwork, is a member of the IMS Radio Network. He is the guy that generally at the track introduces the drivers because he knows how to pronounce their names. He does the Q&A with drivers for the Indy Fan Zone, and he's a pit reporter during practice, qualifying, and the race.
And I bet you don't even know this.
I
called turn 2 for the Indianapolis 500 this year for the very first time.
You're the one.
I was the one.
Oh, I wondered who made that mess. Now I know. Please welcome Michael Young.
Hey, everyone. like to get started by just simply
here we go.
updating you. You said he was tweeting the camera. He was tweaking the camera is the words you were
That's
looking
what I
for.
said, tweaking.
Oh, I thought you said tweeting.
No, that's because you tweet. I don't.
I do not tweet that.
I think you should, Don.
You should tweet.
I think that would be awesome.
You'd run out of characters before you even got a thought out of your head. You'd be like, you'd have to be like, beep, beep, beep. Yeah. You'd be more backspacing than you'd be able to tweet.
Howdy. Remind me not to invite him again, will you? Thank you. Oh, boy. Take care of Shirley. Don't turn around here. Steve,
Yes, sir.
you were in attendance yesterday at the announcement.
I was.
Were you surprised by it? Did you hear something was going?
No, I was surprised by it. I think most people were. There was rumblings that property or the facility, the assets were for sale, but there was nothing imminent that I had heard. So, yeah, no, it was very surprising. Very surprising on who it was, too, actually.
And your opinion of who it is it a good choice?
I think it's the best choice possible. If it's not going to be with the Holman George family, who deserve a lot of credit for what they've done over, I think, 74 years that they've owned it. Yeah, exactly. They've been pretty good stewards of that facility in this town. But some of the other options probably were not as palatable as Mr. Penske. He is a racer. He's going to treat it property the way it's supposed to be treated. We're going to still have the Indy 500. IndyCar's still going to be around. So, yeah, I think it's as good as we're going to get out of selling it.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, his comment. He said, I know this place pretty well. I know where pit stop 1 and 2 is.
I thought that was pretty funny.
And I know where the victory circle is.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it is. He's usually down at that end of the pits. But it'll be interesting to say. He said he's going to step back from the race team, which I fully expect him to do. He's got lots of capable people there, so I think he's going to spend quite a bit of time in town until he gets everything sorted out and what needs to be done with the Speedway and the series and IMSP, IMS Productions, and he's got a lot of good people, and I think he'll keep most everybody around and bring in some of his own people, and more importantly, it's the connections, right? Like, he's got so many connections within the business world. When you're Roger Penske and you make a phone call and you go into a boardroom, it's a lot harder to say no than it is to, as much as I love Mark Miles and Jay Fry and those guys, saying no to Roger Penske is a lot harder than it is anybody else. And that's, the series needs investment and not just from Roger, but from other partners and, a new OEM and new sponsors. And there's nobody better at leveraging what he's got to bring those on board.
Well, I found it interesting because he was one of the guys that wanted 25 in for the 500, the ones that run the whole series.
That was as a team owner. He's now owns the series and owns the Speedway.
He changed.
Roger's a pretty sharp guy and knows that, all right, now that I own the Speedway, bumping's a good thing for me and good thing for the series that I own. So I think he'll change his tune pretty quickly on that. He's going to have lobbying from team owners, but Roger's about the bottom line. He's not going to do anything that injures his bottom line. And honestly, 25 and 8 or whatever, however you want to put it, guaranteeing spots will end up hurting his bottom line.
And I thought it was interesting. He always compliments his people. Always talks about his crew, his people, his businesses, his people, because he can't be at all of them, but he keeps track, and he always compliments his people. And I think that really says a lot about who he is and what he is.
Yeah, he's done a very good job of hiring good people, and he entrusts them to do their job, right? He's not a micromanager. He's there. He's going to make the big decisions. He's going to support his people. But, no, he's all about hiring the right people and getting them in place and letting them do their job. So, if you guys have ever been to Detroit Grand Prix, you know how well run that event is. It's probably one of the, Michael, you can probably confirm, it's probably one of the better run events that we go to every year. And I expect everything he does with the series and the Speedway to be exactly the same way. It's always top notch.
What do you think? Well, his owning now IMS Productions, which Radio Network is a part of. You think he'll change any of that? Does he like the Radio Network? Are you aware of?
When I ask him to do an interview, he'll still say yes. So that's a positive. It's hard to say, in this day and age, you look at everything and you look at the facilities and the properties that you have bought, and you make the best decision for moving forward and promoting what it is that you purchased. The radio network and the numbers that we saw at the end of the season and the amount of listeners that we had was, from what I understand, far greater than what the television broadcasts have brought for the series. But you have to understand, in this day and age, it's a very television-driven platform, and racing, they want to be on television. But as a radio entity, and for Roger to have been around as long as he has been, I think he understands the asset that the radio network is. IMS Productions do so much more than just race promotions. That they're all over between rodeos and all the other things that they do. They make a lot of money for that company, and they may be the money leader for that conglomerate. I mean, they do an amazing job, IMS Productions. So it'll be interesting to see how Roger attacks everything. I think and I know you would love Mark Miles or Jay Fry to be here, but I don't think they'll tell you anything different than what we know right now. And I don't think Roger's going to mess with it a lot this first year. He said he wants to grow it. He says he wants to make it bigger and better. We saw in Detroit, and I was never there the initial years, but it was a mud pit. It was a mud hole. It was horrible, that Belle Isle. And Roger has turned that into a first-class facility. He has done that fountain hasn't worked for 2 decades, and now it works again. It just... When he touches things, they tend to, no pun intended, they turn to gold. And Tony George, of all the things that he said, there were 2 things. I was at the company employee meeting yesterday. He got very emotional, and this probably was the hardest decision for him to ever do. And I don't know this for fact, but I think he mentioned his grandfather a lot. And I think he and his grandfather were very close. There were photos of him as a child, and I think he wanted to carry that torch. But he said, we took it as far as we could take it, and now it's time to take it to the next level. And for him to reach out, just, hey, Roger, how would you like to be a steward? He didn't say, how would you like to be an owner? How would you like to be a steward? And that's how Tony thought of him and the family and the Indianapolis. But we were stewards of the Speedway. And he got really emotional about it. And then Roger, talking about being 14 years old. And I sat out and turned 4 with my dad. And I don't even think I could see the track. And, and hopefully Dad's looking down saying, proud of you, son. I mean, this is something I don't think I'd ever dreamt I'd see in my lifetime. And it's just such a very special time. But to think that it's going to stay where it is not even close. I mean, it's going to go to a whole nother level, not only with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but I think he can take IMS Productions to a new level. And, oh my gosh, the series. What in the world do you think he can do with the series? And you talk about, Roger Penske can pick up the phone and get anybody. Who called him when he won the Indianapolis? Here's the president on the phone. Oh, hi, Mr. That's the kind of connections that this man has. I mean, he is world-class, and he's a world-class businessman, and there couldn't have been anybody better that Tony George reached out to buy this property than Roger Penske.
Oh, and mentioning Detroit, you're right, it was a mud hole.
Oh, it's horrible.
He paid for all the concrete in front of the building, whatever it was. It's all concrete for all of the setup.
This is a state
and
park.
He did it.
This is a state
and
park.
He paid for it.
Yeah, he paid
and every
for it.
year he adds more and more improvements, and it gets that much better. And
he pays for it.
And he does it. Well, and he pays for it, but he gets a lot of corporate buy-in from Detroit too, which he's going to do everywhere they go now. He's got a lot of partners all around the country, and I expect he'll twist some arms and bring those kind of people in. And he's big on corporate responsibility and corporate stewardship, even of Detroit. The turnaround in Detroit, a lot of it has to do with what he's done and what the money he's put in. And quietly, if you do some research in Detroit, he's building community centers where they've been torn down, and he's that's the type of thing he does. And I expect him to do the exact same thing in Indy and Speedway too. It's what he does. He understands how important that is to making his businesses work, to having the employees happy. He gets it. So I don't think we can get anybody better.
And to add to your Detroit comment, he opens that track on the Friday. And a lot of tracks do this. I don't want to make it sound like he's the only one. But they open that track to the community on Friday, and it's a free Friday. And you get an island full of people that probably have never seen a race car in their lives, but not only giving back to the community, but hopefully promoting it to future fans. It's just really
he does
really
it
done right.
does it right, and he brings in a lot of school groups and that on that Friday that would never ever get to see a racetrack, and he wrangles a few of us to do tours to help with those kids, and it's the way he does things in Detroit is just it's incredible on how that event's run, and I kind of look towards that as what's going to happen here, and it's putting good people in place, and spending the money the right way. He's not going to spend money willy-nilly. You don't become a billionaire by, throwing money away or burning money, but, he's going to find where he needs to spend the money to make money, and that benefits all of us down the road.
I tell a story that I was told when he bought, I believe it was Detroit Diesel. They were going down, and the employees had been promised a bonus. Now, how they were going to do that with going broke, but the first thing he did when he bought it, he paid them all. And they said that business went zoom. The people were
He treats his people right. He definitely does.
And he's got a lot of people that have been with him 20, 25, 30 years.
You see a lot of loyalty there.
Oh, yeah. He's a good guy. And I think, I think it's a good move. Not that it matters what I think, but he kind of mentioned adding one more race, I think.
I think you'll see. Yeah, I think you'll see a lot more. The property used more for different things, and it's quietly been going that way. There's a lot of stuff out there you don't see there's a lot of corporate events now, and that is happening out there that you don't hear about, but I think you're going to see more public events. I think you'll see another sport. I think you'll see a sports car race.
Concerts.
I think you'll see more concerts. There's going to be a chance to bring other series in too, right? There's still Formula E that hasn't been here. I could see Formula One discussions. There are series that can come back, and I think when you got a property like that, you have to use it as much as possible.
When he bought Michigan in '72, he said, I wanted to make Michigan Raceway the biggest venue in the state of Michigan, bigger than the one in Ann Arbor. And he said, I think we did that before he got done with it, and he sold it. He goes, I'm going to do this. And then it already is that, but I want to make it even bigger. He stopped, but that's that mentality. I want this to be the biggest thing, and I have no doubt he'll do it.
It'll be interesting to see because Doug was here, was it last week? And he was talking about how expensive it is to bring entertainment in.
Yeah.
And he said, we got to rent and build a stage. We got to put in seats, except for the Mick Jagger and his gang. They said, we don't want seats. Everybody stand up. So they drew 55,000. I guess everybody didn't argue. And the expense, and he said the medium and lower tiered entertainers are 1.1 and 1.5 million. So it's a big nut to crack, but I'll bet Roger will figure out a way to get these guys going from here to there and have a concert.
I worked in radio for several years, and we put a show together up at, I call it Deer Creek, but Rudolph Home Mortgage Theater, and it was called X Fest, and we would get dozens of bands to play the show, and we'd sell it out, and we did it every year. You don't have to spend $1 million to bring bands into facilities. I think, the Stones are one thing, but I think if they did it right and leveraged themselves right, I think when people hear Indianapolis Motor Speedway, they just see dollar signs and they're like, just throw a big number out. And I think with this entertainment portion, that they will be able to bargain things a little bit better and work that rate back down. Yeah. Maybe not for the A-class, the A-tier bands, but certainly for some of the smaller bands, I think they'd be able to do that.
I think they could get a nice opening band. Beepline would be a good opener. Of course, we'd have to wake Phil up a little early in the day for that, but we can do that.
Well, you think about this. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway, turn one, and I know this is probably sacrilege to say, but you could put a concert stage on the inside between the warm-up lane and the racetrack. You could put a stage there, use behind that for backstage, use the track as a natural amphitheater, set up, and then use that turn one area as a pavilion. You've got a covered venue. It really is made for many things. You could run an NHRA event down Holman Boulevard. I mean, you could do a lot with that facility.
Well, the first time I had Mark Miles here, I waited until he got the key to the executive washroom and knew where it was. And he came in, and one of my questions was, are you considering using the facility for more than racing? No, this is a racing facility. Well, within a year and a half, they did use it, and they realized it.
Yeah.
They're paying tax all year long. What the hell, use it?
Yeah. The only thing that I and not to be negative on this, the only thing that I think will be a problem for Roger Penske. And I can see this happening because that team is that good. They, coming off a championship and an Indianapolis 500 win, back-to-back 500s. The only thing I think will be a problem, but Roger will be able to figure it out, is that let's say they go to St. Petersburg, they win. They win Birmingham, they win Long Beach, they win COTA, they win all those races. What will the backlash be for race fans to say, well, it's fixed. Clearly it's fixed now. Now, I know it's not fixed. You know it's not fixed. And you know it. But it's going to be – that's the only difficult thing I think would be for the fans to understand that that's not how it's going to be run. But it will be difficult if they come in and – because let's face it, he's already owned the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for, 30 years. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So –
and I think that's probably one of the reasons he said, I'm going to step back from the team. I've got Tim. He knows how to run it. He's been doing it. They don't need me. I'm sure he'll consult, but I don't think you'll see him anywhere much around the team. He'll be out.
But it will be tough.
Yeah, that's going to be tough for him, right? He's been doing that for how many years?
Yeah,
he's been part of the team, but yeah,
they're a great team, and it's going to be hard for fans to say, well, of course they're going to win all these races, but that might not be that won't be the case at all. But they're that good that it could easily happen. So
I saw Roger when he was driving. I went to Meadowdale Raceway. He was just a young guy then, and he was driving the cars. Yeah. And now look where he is.
Yeah.
Smart move he made.
So when he retired, 65,
like
came
that.
to Indy at 69, I think, with Donahue was the first year, and but the great thing about it is, and the one thing that I took away from the reverence that he has for that place. As many times as he won there, as many times as he had a pole there, he still has that reverence, and that's exactly the person you need to be the person to own this facility.
It's the only race on the calendar. Usually Roger will come in on a Saturday and maybe be there for qualifying and be on the box on Sunday, but he's there the entire month at Indy, right? Like he's on the box every day and he's there, and that's, it's everything to him. And, like Michael said, there'll be some questions, but I've been around long enough to know that he's going to step away and, he's going to be wanting to run the series, and that's going to I imagine it'll be hard for him because he's been doing the same thing for, however many years, 50 years, where, he's gone into the transporter and been in the driver meetings. But my guess is that he's going to have to step away from that, and he knows that because he's going to have to run the series, right? There's going to be people at every race where they're entertaining, and that's going to be his new gig is going to be to grow the series, and that's that's going to take precedence over the team. And like Michael said, Tim Cindric's no slouch. He's going to do just fine running that team. And Roger's got some family too that I expect will get involved even in the race side of things, just because that's Roger Jr. was a pretty good Super V shoe in the day, and Greg's been around the block and run the tracks. So I expect you'll see the kids around a lot more. Roger mentioned family yesterday too in his presentation or his answered questions, and I expect that's exactly what he means. I expect his kids to be around as well, and they're racers too. So I don't expect much to change as far as the family atmosphere. But it'll be interesting to see how he deals with being away from the race team.
I just hope that doesn't become an issue, though. If they have a very successful 2020, that the fans turn on that would be the only thing that would be a bummer, because I know that's not going to be the case, because he'll run it. He's no longer that Team Penske, even though his name's associated to it, but that team will be just as good as they are each and every year.
Oh, yeah. Now, let's get to what you do normally. What is your feeling going into 2020 with the Road to Indy program? Now, they've got a school now that's the official school for taking these young kids and teaching them, the Lucas Oil
School of Racing.
But what do you see for this 2020 season for all three of them in the series?
I think you'll see a lot more cars across the three series. Lights isn't going to grow substantially. I think you'll start the season with 12 to 14 cars, so you'll end the season with double digits. Would be an improvement, a definite improvement. Need more teams there. I know they're working really hard at it. Costs have come down, budgets have come down. Indy Pro 2000 this year, I think you could see a huge field, which will be good for Indy Lights down the road. That's been the biggest issue with Indy Lights over the last few years. There's a couple issues, but that size of that Indy Pro 2000 field has been too small to have enough drivers to move up. If you have a quarter of the drivers move up and you've only got 8 drivers, well, that's only 2 drivers moving up, right? If you got 20 drivers, that's all of a sudden 5 drivers moving up. So you're going to have that happen, and then they're working really hard. I know Johnny Baker's been traveling in Europe to try and talk to all the F3 programs to try and get kids to make the switch over to the U.S. It's tough right now because it's good to have a strong American dollar, but it hurts the Junior Formula Series because it's more expensive when the American dollar's high. The euro or the pound or even the South American dollar doesn't go as far, so it's tough to get those kids to come up or come across the pond. But it's strong. It's definitely strong. I think you're going to see some new teams. Definitely in Indy Lights, you've got two new teams. Maybe another one that I'm hearing rumblings about, but we'll see. But I think you're going to have a good, strong field again. And you've got the guys. The last few years are moving up. I think Oliver Askew and Arenas VK. I've been doing this a long time, and those guys are really talented. You're going to be seeing a lot of those guys over the years, and they've been fighting each other since karting, so it's kind of fun to watch. They've got a healthy respect for each other, but they like to beat each other too. So I think it's going to be interesting to see those guys. But you've got the lot of lights champions in the field next year, so it's going to be interesting to see how those guys, especially with the Arrow McLaren Racing Schmidt Peterson, yes, SP, to see how those two rookies do together. Patricio's not quite a rookie, but pretty close. But it'll be interesting to see how they do. But I think you're going to see some growth across all 3 series. And I know they're trying really hard to bring in some new sponsors. They've got some new sponsorship, and they've got a partnership with Toyota Racing Series down in New Zealand. I think you'll see a couple kids from Road to Indy go down there in January and February to race, and then a couple kids that were down there from Europe come to across the pond to race. So it's just about building those relationships and getting kids to come over.
Where's Renus? What have you heard about him? Where's he headed, if anywhere?
I expect him to be with the hometown team. That would be my guess.
But what happens to the 21 car?
I've got nothing.
In other words, you're not going to say what you think.
No, I don't know. I haven't heard anything definitive. Ed, give Ed Carpenter credit. Ed holds his cards close to the vest. I can try and get stuff out of him, but he won't. He won't budge on it, so I usually don't even try with him anymore.
What's the end result with Harding Steinbrenner? Now that it's Andretti Harding, is Mike Harding staying there? Is he going to leave? Is it still going to be Andretti Harding Steinbrenner?
Yeah, that's all part of this Andretti fold now. So it's a 5th Andretti Autosport car, just Andretti Auto or Andretti. I don't know what they're calling it, but they have a bunch of team names with a bunch of long names. But yeah, it'll be a 5th car there.
Andretti Harding, Steinbrenner, Herta, Marco.
Yeah, something like that.
Kerr, Bagajanian,
yes.
Motorsports.
Yes, precisely. Which is good for Michael. It's investors, right? Money makes the world go round, and having all those investors is good. But yeah, that'll be a 5th car there. Standalone team's done. They've got rid of some of the equipment, and large chunk of the people have gone over to Andretti. There's a few guys looking for jobs, but they won't be looking long. It was a good, well-run team, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I expect Colton to be very, very good next year.
Is he keeping their PR people? Is Brian going with him? Is he going to be part of the team, or is he going to be mixing asphalt for Mike?
As far as I know, Brian's part of it for now. I don't know long term what their plans is. I haven't talked to Brian in a while. I know there's a couple guys looking that were there, but a lot of the crew ended up going because they needed the crew for the car. And it was an Andretti engineering group, so that group moved over right away. But, I don't know what they'll do with Brian. He's an awfully good manager, and he's an awfully good team manager. And, I would keep him if it was me, but I don't know I don't sign the checks at Andretti, so I can't.
I got a question for this smart guy over here.
Okay.
What happens to that building down the road?
Ooh, good question.
Well, I was expecting an answer.
Sorry. No, I've got nothing. Wink Hartman still owns that building.
Correct.
So, I don't know what will end up happening with it. I'm sure he'll want to lease it out. There's a team, the one that with the F1 connections would want a nice building. But
does anybody get this feeling that you're starting to see Steve like to bring those cards and they're just getting closer and closer? And okay, all right.
I actually haven't heard much about the building. I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I was thinking that that might be a good place for for them to move the operation from McLaren to move in. It's a good building right next door.
It is a nice building. Yeah, it is. And Andretti's tight. Like they've got a lot of stuff going on in that building, and it's a decent sized building, and it's a nice building, but it's 5 cars, and I expect them to run in 4 lights cars, and they've got
What about a satellite team, Steve?
I have not heard anything.
What about another team that maybe didn't go to Chevrolet and will stay with Honda? Will they run out of Andretti?
Oh, yeah, I expect that to run out of Andretti. You mean Michael Shank Racing?
Yes.
Yeah, or Meyer Shank, sorry. Meyer Shank Racing. Yeah, I'd expect that to be affiliated with Andretti. They'll run it out of their own shop in Columbus like they have with the Schmidt-Peterson connection, but they'll... it'll be a same type of deal, technical partnership. It'll be all Meyer Shank people, but they'll be able to share data like they did this year, which is it's a good way to build a team. Michael Shank knows how to do it, and he won't overstep what he can bite off more than he can chew. So, yeah, I expect that to be with Andretti. That's what at least the rumors are right now.
And have you heard if they've been able to put a program together so that Jack can run the whole season, or they can run?
I haven't heard anything definitive. I know they're working really hard at it. I think that's the goal. Definitely the goal. I think Michael needs to get his sports car stuff sorted out too, and then they'll kind of get everything pulled together and see what they can put together. But yeah, that's the plan. I know that's the plan.
Are you going to ask the big herring, the big white elephant in the room? Are you going to ask that question about James Hinchcliffe and what's going to happen with that, since he's from Canada?
Am I going to ask?
Michael should answer that. I think he knows.
I don't know anything about that.
I actually don't know a whole lot about that either. I don't know where he's going to end up. He could end up where he is now and at the racetrack every weekend, sitting in the hospitality, getting paid. But I know he wants to be in a car. But there's not a lot of options right now. They've got some money, but it's hard to spend money when you've been paid for as many years as he has. So it's tough. It's a tough deal. And it did come as a huge surprise to him. He made a new seat with the team, I think Thursday. And then Sunday afternoon, he got the call that he was going to get sat down. He didn't get fired, right? Like, he just got replaced, and they found the money to pay him. And, they found out 2 other drivers that they wanted to run. So it's not a good situation for James, but I think he'll have options for sure. It might not be a full season, but I think there'll be options.
Well, I've heard there's a new team working to get put together, and they have spoken with him, and he's interested. So there are things happening.
Well, he's spoken to pretty much every team. That I know for sure, but it's a matter of putting budget together, and it's late in the game, right? That's the problem. It's these kind of things usually have to start talking about them in the summer, and we're getting close to December now, so it's getting late in the game to put that together because, he's got partners, but they'd already committed their budget, their marketing budget. That gets done in the fall, so it's tough to get more money out of companies this time of year. That's usually it's not a very easy thing to do.
Who'd you vote for? I'm just curious. No, I'm sorry. It's none of my business. Happy Election Day, everyone.
Speaking of voting,
yes.
What do you attribute the obvious success of the IMS Radio Network? Now, it's not like it used to.
All Michael Young.
No.
And Mark James.
Not even close.
And everybody else.
Everybody.
I used to work with
what Mark James says to me after a broadcast, don't you?
I have no idea.
So he'll go down the line to Jake Query. Jake, great job today. Nick Yeoman, awesome job. Rob Howden, great job. Dave First, great job. Hey, Michael, nice try. Every race.
I have heard this, so
true.
It is correct.
Before Mark became the executive up in the Golden Suite,
right? He's up there.
I used to sit with him, and he has one eye, and I had 2. So between the 2 of us, we had 3.
Right.
So I'd put his one eye on what's going on in front, and I always watch the back.
Right.
So if something happened, hey, back here. Then he'd get his one eye around and see.
Right.
And I used to hang out in a trailer, and that was when there's some guy play Santa Claus, Dave Wilson.
Right.
I'm telling you, that place, good grief. It was just amazing. You're on the floor laughing at the 2 of those guys and everybody. They just picked on everyone.
Right.
Even me.
Right.
I had nothing to do with anything.
You just wandered in.
Yeah, I just stumbled in the door looking for a handout, and Wally said, "Get them out." So, but it's an interesting group of people. I think all dedicated, all understand the sport, understand what's going on, and have the respect of the paddock. That when you answer a question, you'll get an answer. It's like Steve and Patrick, when they ask a question, they get an answer. And it's not hooey, they tell them, and then they pass it out, which is what I really like. But you have the same thing. When you go on pit road and you're there and you ask a question, what's going on, you get a good answer.
We have to have a good question. You can't
Yeah,
I saw,
exactly it.
God love Adam Vinatieri. There was a gal on one of the networks this weekend, and they said, let's go to the post game report. And she's like, so what happened when you missed the ball with the field goal? I missed it. So what happened? I mean, the worst questions in the world. I mean, this guy just missed the game-winning field goal. It's all about listening, and I think that's one of the things that all of our guys have a great tendency for. That many times, if a driver will respond to something, you ask them about a car setup or whatever's going on with it, listen to what they say, and there's usually a good second question in there that really has the good nugget of information that you really need, or getting a guy when they're really emotional. One of my favorites, Paul Page was still the anchor of the network, but we were at Long Beach, and it was at the end of the race, and I don't know, it's probably 6 years ago now. Pagenaud and Power got into an incident, and they were jawing each other. So I kind of went over and I said, well, Paul, we've got a big incident over here. Evidently, Will Power doesn't care for what Simon Pagenaud did to him on the circuit there on those last laps. Here, hang on a second. And I just stuck the mic out there and was perfect, just waiting for the big bomb to come and just drawing it back when it got too heated. But it's just the magic of it, you know, and it's funny because I've got a lot of younger people that I talk to. I say, I love listening to you guys on the radio because the races are so much more exciting than when you watch them on TV. And there's taking nothing away from the staff of NBC, but when we're there, we have the ability to tell a story and to make that story far more interesting than what you can visually see. You might be a student of racing and know there's no way he's going to pass that guy. But when we had him coming out of turn 2, I'm like, and Rossi takes him down low, and Jake's like, hey, and it's just, you just build up that entire thing. The radio network has been known when Howdy was there, when everybody was there. I mean, it's just the beauty of the network, and that's one thing that you will never be able to have on television, and I know they try really, really hard to do it. You'll never be able to have the magic of the human voice and the excitement of the voice painting a picture for the mind that you're not there, but you feel like you're right there watching the whole thing.
Yeah, but I think, yeah, you're right.
Thank you.
And I think the difference is somebody would say, why do I have to explain it? They're watching it. We tell them what we see, but they don't build the excitement because you know the people listening, you can't see it.
Right.
Or most of them aren't watching. Right. Although I do know a lot of people say, when the race starts, the green flag, the volume on the television goes on, and they listen to you guys. And I said, you got to be kidding.
It's just it's a whole different ball game, you know. And I have a lot of people that disagree, but I don't think TV would be that bad off. Here's the problem: you've got a lot of people that have been around this sport a long time that despise TV broadcasters calling a play-by-play. But that's such a small amount of people that I really think they do themselves a service to actually get a little more excited. And I think Lee Diffie and Townsend and PT do a good job of bringing that back. And you look, they start doing more play-by-play, and what's everybody saying? Oh, the broadcast's so great. Duh, they're doing more exciting calls. It's not. It just lends itself to more excitement. People, you don't go to watch a soccer game on TV and the guy still goes go, and it's exciting. it's you want to be excited, and that's that broadcaster's job. No, I just got the go out. I didn't get it. Yeah.
Well, I can't get up high enough. My shorts aren't tight.
Oh my God! Save that for me. If you could give me an audio MP3 of Don's doing that, that's going to be my ringtone. Whoop, 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 whoop. What's that? That's a Don K ringtone. You can get it for $49.95. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
All right. I guess.
Thanks, everybody. It's been fun.
Well,
all right. Yeah, it won't work on your flip phone, Don. We won't
Thank
be able
you.
to, yeah.
I have to say that I enjoy listening to what you guys do, and I
Thank you.
enjoy reading what you write. I
And
think
Steve does an amazing job. If you guys have never read Steve's
if
stuff,
you
do so.
haven't
Yeah.
subscribed to Trackside Online,
Those are great.
you've got to go to Trackside Online and subscribe. Now you're going to say, oh, yeah, we get something during the race. No, you get it all year long.
Yeah.
Yep.
They haven't shut the garages down. They're still there. These guys are cutting up stories all year long. You want to know what Penske Racing said? You want to know what Andretti raced? They'll tell you. They get the PR. They send it out. It's worth it. It's only, what, $25 a year or something?
$22 a year.
22 a year.
We haven't raised the price in a while, and I don't think we're going to.
So you go to
My gosh, that's not even the price of a cup of coffee.
Exactly.
So you go to tracksideonline.com and you can subscribe. And I'm telling you, these guys will give you all the information. You get to the next race, you'll know what happened from the last one. It's great.
And potential good news. I don't even know I'm allowed to say this.
Go ahead.
I'm going to just say it, and I always ask for forgiveness.
That's the best way to do it.
The goal this year is, I don't even know if I should say this now. We will hopefully be, the IndyCar Radio Network will hopefully be on Sirius XM 24/7 now, that we won't just be on during that. It could be really exciting. That the goal, I think, is what we're trying to do is play old broadcasts throughout the week, and then race weekend we'll hopefully be back on and do all of the. But it's all about bandwidth with Sirius. They just have a limited bandwidth, but that is the goal, that hopefully we'll be on 24/7. So that's exciting. And use Jack Harvey a lot as well, that we'll hopefully have an opportunity to talk to Jack Harvey. It's still in the works, but that is our goal.
Yeah, but Jack says I want to drive all races, so now what?
Well, but before and after, it's not like we're going to go in the car. Come on. What do you think about that, Jack? It's when he's in and out of the car is when we'll talk to him.
Me.
You got done.
Have you been drinking? What are you doing?
Yeah,
over there?
water.
Okay.
Polluted, too. Sniff.
Vodka.
All right, I want to thank both of you
gosh,
for
it's
coming.
been a
By the
pleasure.
way,
Thank you.
there is a new company. It's an old one with a new name, Priority Graphics, on, what's that road?
It's called 10th Street.
That's the other one, yeah. He is an account representative for them, so he does work during the
Yeah,
week.
I still make stickers for the kids, and if we do print media, anything you want, we're on the extension road between Polko and Holt that goes back there, and we basically dead end the Speedway. Kevin Blanche and I'll hit golf balls to him, and then he'll throw them back for me. I've been practicing my short game. That's not true at all. I didn't.
I didn't think so. I wouldn't think Kevin could find the ball once you
I
hit
can't
it.
imagine Kevin Blanche in a golf club.
Well, probably
He's a
not.
fisherman, or was.
We fish out.
Shotgun,
we
maybe,
fish in the
but-
creek. Is what we do. So.
All right, I want to thank you guys for coming here. Don't
Thank you,
forget,
guys.
IMS Radio
It's,
Network.
yeah.
They're awesome.
Michael Young
Appreciate
and
it.
Trackside Online, Steve Wittich. Thanks for being here, both of you.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks.
My next guest is right here somewhere, if he hasn't given up and left yet. And as he comes up, I will remind you that if you want to find out what it's like to ride in an Indy car, why not try the Indy Racing Experience? You go to IndyRacingExperience.com, find a date that'll work for you, and they're at the Speedway all year, and they travel around the country. And when you go
There's
online,
so much hen scratching on this. How can you even read this?
it's in Japanese. You can't read it.
This was printed in 1974. How is this even still? This is parchment paper.
Yes, it is. Thank you for noticing.
This came off the mimeograph. Yep, mimeograph paper.
Anyway, when you go to subscribe, forget him. When you go to subscribe or sign up for a ride in a two-seater, in the promo box, put SJ1, you get a 50% discount. You'll get a ride like you've never had before. You'll love it. It's great. There's also something you need to look into every once in a while, and that's a car. You need a new car, go up to Daleville and find out why the best prices in the country are, in fact, in the country in Daleville, Indiana. Sam Pierce Chevrolet. Just take I-69 North, exit 234, go south 1 mile, and you'll see this huge flag. That's him. And when Sam sells you a car, he doesn't stand behind, he stands alongside you. So if you need a car, see Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville. Now, people are really getting excited about vintage racing. If you need a car or you have one, you need it restored, there's only one place to go, obviously. The Grand King Race Shops on Crawfordsville Road. They're at 8155 Crawfordsville Road. You can give them a call at 317-820-3595. If you need your car restored or you're looking to buy one, give them a call. And while you're on the phone, If you're coming in for the PRI show, they have a vehicle. They'll take you on a tour. You can see the Grand King shop. You may see one or two others. They'll pick you up wherever you start, and they'll bring you back. Same number, 317-820-3595. Check it out. Take a ride. You'll love it. They're very good at it. And if you're lucky, Fluffy won't be there. It'll just be Bill. And don't forget, coming up, it's the Gift and Hobby Show at the fairgrounds. And if you need insurance for your home, your car, or commercial property, you got only one place to go, is the VP Insurance. They're located at 5004 West 16th Street. Call Mike Pardee. He will help you. When you have a problem, he'll help you. Number's 317-248-0070. And if you are a vintage car fan, you need to subscribe to Speed Tour magazine, put out and published by SVRA. So go to svra.com and subscribe. It's a first-class magazine. Great stories, great pictures. You'll love it. They're done for the year, but they will be back next year. Mark my words. And as I said, if you're looking to take a ride in the tour a couple shops when you're in town for the PRI, call the Grand King shops, 317-820-3595. My next guest is probably one of the finest motorsports writers in today's market. He's got some great books that he's put out. The one that knocked me on the floor was Hewitt's Law. But he's got one on Speedy Bill Smith. They got one on Earl Baltus, who was the former owner and builder of Winchester. He's got one out on about everybody. Chris Economaki, he scared him to death when he rode in the car with him, because Chris didn't care what if it said one way. He didn't care. He just went the way he wanted to go. And he's just come out with a book on Jimmy Sills. So I said, come on in, let's talk about what you're doing. And I've got an article from, wherever the hell did I put it? Oh, here it is. From Sprint Car Magazine. Speed Sport. I'm sorry, Speed Sport Magazine. His opinion on a different take on Indy cars and ovals. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about his thoughts about the sale of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And let's have a good time. Please welcome the one, the only Mr. Dave Argabright.
Thank you.
Now, by the way, if you haven't got his newest book, did you bring in the older ones?
Just have Jimmy Sills' book here tonight.
Okay,
Yep.
well,
Life
if you
with
want,
Luke.
Yeah, I'm going to get into that one. His name is Jimmy. So anyway, if you want to get a copy of the book, you can get it tonight. He'll autograph it after the program. Come and see him. What prompted you to write this article in Speed Sport about a different take on Indy cars and ovals?
Well, I just at the time there was a lot of conversation about Pocono not being on the schedule next year, and that ovals maybe are too dangerous. It's a dialogue we've had for far too long, and I just wanted to throw an opinion out there. It's an age-old thing, but a lot of IndyCar drivers currently, they don't come from an oval background. They didn't come up through ovals, and I could understand that that wouldn't be their favorite venue to run on a high-speed oval. And my thought is, I totally respect, if they feel uncomfortable that it's unsafe. I'm the last guy that would ever question that. But my point would be that we've had Indy cars on ovals for a really, really long time, and I still think that there's probably a bunch of badass short track racers that would love to get a chance at a place like Pocono. So
I know there is, because I've talked to them and they said, yeah, I'd love it. And I said, well, get your resume. I don't need a resume. They know it. No, they don't. Not anymore. There's too many other things going on to do that. What is your feeling when you heard about the sale of the Speedway?
Well, probably like everybody else, shocked. I mean, it hit my inbox with everybody else's at 8 yesterday morning, and the subject line, just basically said, Penske Corp is purchasing, Holman and Company, and you do a double and a triple take, to say, is this real? Is this April 1? What's the deal? But you had a day. Everybody's had a day to think about it. I guess I have two perspectives. One, for the Speedway itself, for the city of Indianapolis, for the state of Indiana, probably a great thing, because Roger Penske, the only word I know to describe him is Titan. He's just so accomplished. He's so good at what he does. What he's done for Detroit, Michael and Steve talked about, it's a wondrous thing, and that could be all good things. So I think definitely some good things are coming. But on the flip side, another perspective is I couldn't help yesterday just feel a little bit blue, because in my lifetime, and almost everybody in here, the Holman George family and Tony Holman originally, it's an Indiana family owning an Indiana institution that they built into the greatest racing facility in the world, and that ends. You know, that's kind of that part is kind of sad.
Yeah, I think so, but I think also that perhaps they have indeed run their course and they can't see how or are not able to take it to the next step up, and I think Roger can. I think Roger probably has, although I don't know Tony well, but I think Tony can open a few doors himself, but I don't think anything can compare to what Roger could do.
And I have total respect for Tony and the family. If they came to that conclusion, I mean, that's the ultimate definition of the phrase stewardship. You know, they didn't look at themselves as owners, they were stewards. And I don't think you can really own something like the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You are a steward. And if they came to that conclusion, and it's for the best for the institution to go to a new owner, I have total respect for that. You have to respect that. That's an unselfish thing that is to be admired.
And I was impressed when he talked about never having, until last summer, reading the history of the family and what went on. He read it and went, holy smoke. Stuff that he never heard of, didn't know anything about, and he went, wow, this is what our family does? Geez. Quite interesting. And I have a feeling, because Roger, as you know, said, you know, if they want to come back and join us and be a part of the ownership and buy back in, they're welcome to it. I have a feeling Tony might do that. Yeah. Suspectedly, I mean, I don't know. He certainly hasn't called me about it, but, you know, when you look back at your writing career, you started out writing in Anderson. You submitted articles to Dick Berggren, and he'd send them back with all kinds of red ink written all over them. But that didn't stop you. You worked on improving what you've put out. And your first book, I believe, came out in 1983. And you worked for the Anderson Herald for writing weekly columns. And you're now here to where, when I mention a name Dave Argabright, they know who I'm talking about. I don't have to say, oh yeah, he writes books about Speedy Bill Smith or Hewitt's Law, which I thought was still the best book. I love that one. And they understand you. And the thing that also impresses me is I think it's Sprint Car Midget Magazine, you started writing a story, and you just thought, well, I'll just do it and see what happens. Well, it's been going on for, what, 10 years?
Actually, 15 years.
15 years. Well, I was close. Yeah. I took a guess. And how's Jimmy Wilson doing? Is he doing okay?
He's doing great. You know, you touched on that. I mean, I have to give credit to Doug Auld, the editor there, and I had always wondered, you know, if I could write fiction. I'd never really tried, and he said, hey, let's try it. So, you know, we created this fictional racer, Jimmy Wilson. He's a USAC sprint car racer set in the 70s, and it just kind of took off, and it's difficult to sustain sometimes. It's gone on a long time, and it's hard to come up with creative places to put Jimmy. I mean, in fiction, you kind of have to create a character, get him in trouble, and then figure out how to get him out. And that, you know, you do that enough, it's hard to be original. If somebody ever said it's the same old thing and it's boring, then I don't want to do it anymore. If I'm going to do it, I want the reader to enjoy it as much as I do.
And I don't get the magazine all the time, but when I get it, I read it. It's very good. Don't stop. Keep going. I'm enjoying it. It's fun to see what is Jimmy going to do this week. What gave you the incentive to start writing autobiographies about well-known, primarily race drivers, team owners, business owners like Speedy Bill? What inspired you to start writing autobiographies on these guys?
Well, you know, 1998, I had been writing part-time for a long time, and I took the plunge to try to do it full-time and figured out pretty quickly that I needed to, you know, figure out some different ways to make money, and I thought a book maybe would be one, and the first guy I reached out to was Brad Doty, a sprint car racer, and we did his autobiography, and it did well, and so I thought, okay, I kind of know how to do that. So through the years, you know, Jack Hewitt, Earl Baltus, you kind of figure out, you know, how you get that story from somebody, and essentially you're helping him tell his story. I mean, you're listening to what he's trying to say, and you just help him say it in as many of his words as you can. And I don't know, I enjoy it. You know, it's led me to really good friendships with guys like Hewitt and Doug Wolfgang and Chris. I mean, Chris Economaki's no longer with us. Earl Baltus also not, you know, Speedy Bill. I got to spend, you know, almost a year with that person, you know, a lot of one-on-one time. And, you know, I look back at like my time with Chris, you know, when we were working on his project, man, those were great days. You know, those were great days, and I won't ever see that again. So that's been the side benefit to doing books with people.
Now, when I had talked to you and you said you're writing a book on Jimmy Sills, so let's put off until it comes out. I said, okay. It comes out, and when I saw it, I thought, Life with Luke. Who the hell's Luke?
Well, Jimmy Sills was a Hall of Fame racer. In the late 80s, kind of hit a tough stretch where he had a couple crashes, got beat up a little bit. Like every sprint car racer trying to make a living, it's a tough road, and it just kind of finally wore him out, and he decided, he was probably 35, 36 years old, hey, look, I'm done, I'm retiring, I'm quitting racing. So they had a great big race. He's from Sacramento area, and they had a big race out at Bayland Speedway where he still holds, it's no longer a functioning track, but he still won the most races ever at Bayland. So they said, okay, Jimmy, you're going to retire, and we're going to throw a big bash for you and send you out in style. So he has the Jimmy Sills retirement race. Well, then he goes into the off season and kind of dabbles with a couple different jobs, but by spring, he's pretty well broke. And what do most racers know how to do? They know how to get in a race car and maybe make a couple of bucks. So a guy called him and said, hey, Sills, he said, would you run my midget at Chico? And he said, well, yeah, I'll do it, but you can't use my real name, because they had that big retirement, and boy, they would be really mad if I'm racing 4 months later. And so he said, okay. Well, he goes to the track, and he tells the announcer, don't use my name, whatever. Well, what's your name then? And right off the top of his head, he said, it's Luke Warmwater from Hot Springs, Arkansas. And so Luke proceeds to go out and he wins the race. And after he takes a checkered flag, he's thinking, hey, you know, I kind of got a problem here, you know. So he just pulled into the pits, and John Padgen, the promoter, comes over to the car. He's still in the car, and he said, hey, you got to go over to the front straightaway for the pictures. He said, man, I'll just leave my helmet on. No, you can't leave your helmet on. Take your helmet off and go over. So they push the car back around, and Sills is in the car. He's got his helmet off, and he's kind of like, and the car hadn't even rolled to a stop, and he could clearly hear somebody in the stand say, oh, bullshit, that ain't no Luke Warmwater, that's Sills. So from that moment, that was 1989, and Jimmy Sills has never gone anywhere that somebody doesn't say, hey, there's Luke Warmwater. It just stuck with him like glue. And so when we did the book, we thought, let's kind of have some fun and put Luke in there too.
Now, he has some of the books with him. If you want to get one, if you got somebody say, what can I get so-and-so, the race fan, for Christmas? A book from Dave Argabright.
And you know, you when you write a book, you got to pitch it and tell everybody they need to buy it. But in all sincerity, it's one of the most fun projects I've ever done, because if you know Sills, nobody has had more fun in racing than Jimmy Sills. Nobody. And he's a great storyteller. And the best thing so far, I mean, it's his book. It's about his life, and I want him to get as much enjoyment out of this. And what's thrilling him to death right now is his phone's just blowing up with people calling and saying, man, I was reading your book and I was laughing out loud. And he's feeling really good about that. I'm really pleased with how it turned out.
Now, when you started writing books, did you go somewhere to have it published and then figure out after you did that once or twice or whatever, wait a minute, I can do this myself?
You know, I had some help with the first one, self-publishing. There was a guy named Ed Watson who had written a couple books, and published several really good books. Vukovic book, he did some really good books. Bob Gates worked with him some, and Ed kind of took me under his wing and said, you know, we could try to find a publisher, but a publisher knows nothing about racing or racing people. So you'd be better off to publish it yourself, and then you go to the racetracks and you market it. And luckily, you know, it was right along the time when the internet was coming in and you can sell things through a website, and that's what I've always done. You know, I've done 16 books now, and all of them have been, I've self-published, and at this point, you know, the publishing world has changed so much. That's really, in my opinion, on a niche like racing, that's what you have to do to reach your audience.
If somebody says, well, I'd like to get the Hewitt book, or I'd like to get Speedy Bill book, how can they find it?
I have a website, daveargabright.com. Actually, if you Google Jack Hewitt book, I think we're the first thing that comes up. So, you know, I've got every book now except Still Wide Open. Brad Doty's book is sold out. We maybe could do a reprint. It's getting harder and harder to do these because the cost of printing, the cost of postage, everything's higher. You know, it's just the way of life. And it's hard to do reprints. So maybe someday we can do one with Brad's book. I hope so.
How long does it take you when you decide, and I'm assuming at some point you may be the one to write the book for Steve Kinzer. There's got to be one on him. Got to be. How long does it take you from approaching them and they say, okay, yeah, we'll sit down. We got to see you how many times a week? How long does it take to write a book?
It just depends totally. Sills, he's been a good sport, but I've overextended myself the last couple of years with too many projects. We did a USAC book last year.
Yeah, you did.
At the same time, we're trying to do it. And it's just a very hard way to do it, but it just depends. Sometimes, you know, I can get ahead of him a little bit and give him some stuff to review and read, and then, you know, they can get busy with something, and it may be 2 or 3 months before we can get back together and push it on. So it just depends a little bit. I think it's naturally good if you take your time, because every book I've done there were lots of things that came to light in the process, because ideas have to percolate a little bit. And, you know, I remember, if I'm allowed to indulge a story, sure, this is what I mean. If you hurry up and do it, you miss a lot of good stories. I was writing Chris's book, and we were almost finished. We were in the final stages, and about 10 to 11 one night, my phone rings, and he had remembered a story, and I'll share it with you because I know you'll enjoy it. My phone rings, and I answer the phone, and Chris just says, "Dave, get out your tape recorder." And so he proceeds to tell a story. It's 1964. A.J. Foyt has won all the champ car races that year. He's the hot guy. And they have a meeting in New York. They're going to cover the championship race at Sacramento that next weekend. And they have this brand new TV producer. And he's all fired up. And he tells Chris, he said, "Chris, our number one thing this weekend, we have to get an interview with A.J. Foyt. Can you handle that?" "Yeah, no problem. We'll get Foyt, no problem." So they fly to California, and Thursday morning they get there, and the producer's pacing already, saying, should we go out to the track and get... They're not even at the track yet. They'll be there tomorrow. "Don't worry, we'll get Foyt. Don't worry." So the next day they get to the racetrack, the cars are unloaded, and this guy's pestering Chris first thing in the morning. "Should we go?" "No, we can't go now because they're working on the car. Wait, we'll get AJ, don't worry." So the morning practice goes through, and they get ready to qualify, and there's a break, and Chris says to AJ, he says, "AJ, do you have time for us?" "Yeah, I got time." So the producer just goes bazoo. "We got the interview. Get the lights. Get the cameras. Get the audio equipment. We're ready to go. Foyt's available. Foyt's available." And he's all charged up, and he gets all this assembled, and they bring Foyt over. And Chris says, "Get him all in position." This producer's all balled up, you know, and he says, "AJ," he said, "I saw you this morning out walking this 1 mile dirt track." He said, "What is it that you look at on this racetrack that tells you, you know, what you're looking for?" And Foyt looks at him, he said, "Chris," he said, "I really wasn't looking at the racetrack." He said, "But honestly, I can't take a shit until I've had a good walk in the morning." So you see, if we would have hurried up, that never would have made the book. So.
No, dear, I'm not going for a walk around the block first. Forget that. You know, it's interesting. Because, as you're well aware, there's another writer in town who's pretty good at what he does, Bones Brashear.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is also an outstanding writer. And I think if you're into the motorsports scene, that you two guys are without doubt, I think, the best going. And I've enjoyed reading. I've read all your books, I believe. Not this one yet because it just came out and I just woke up. But how is the television world? You're still doing MAV TV regularly?
Yeah, and that's actually, it's been difficult to juggle all the balls, honestly, the last couple of years because the TV schedule, MAV and Lucas Oil, they've been just super to me. They've given me plenty of work. Next year, I think it looks like I'll be busier than ever with sprint cars and dirt late models, Chili Bowl, that kind of thing. And I'm grateful, you know, I'm really glad to have the work. But it's kind of a grind sometimes to try to do a book a year and all that TV. And I have some magazine commitments, as you mentioned, too. So I get a little bit, my wife, you know, she's very patient. I get a little grouchy toward the end of summer because, you know, it just all gets to be too much sometimes.
Well, maybe you should talk to Forrest and see if you can't do the blow-by-blow of the MMA stuff that he puts on the air.
Man, I don't know about that. You know, it's like you watch the rodeo and those bull riders and stuff. I don't even want to watch, man. That looks too dangerous.
It's amazing what he has done from walking around service stations, truck stops, selling a product to what he's done now. He's got his name on anything with 2 to 4 wheels. He's involved in one way or another, and if he doesn't involved in the series, he owns the track they're running on.
Yeah, he's a very hands-on person. He's a very interesting man.
Oh, yeah.
Self-made, and you have to admire it. You know, he's a truck driver who had a better idea and just would not take no for an answer and built a great company.
Yeah, and he's got all these people out in California. I guess they're still all there.
There's a lot in Corydon, Indiana, too. He's got a big center down there. He's originally from Corydon, so that's the connection.
And his son now left racing. Is he part of the company now?
Yeah, he's, you know, Morgan's getting more and more active, I think, and I think they're looking at him getting more involved, and they have a big facility out here in Brownsburg where he used to race out of.
Right.
And, they're slowly finding new uses for that. He doesn't race, you know, so, you know, that may be an office for them or part of the studio someday, and it's a growing company. I mean, they're doing very well.
It's amazing, amazing. Well, you know, I hate to say this, but I look forward to having you. I shouldn't say I hate to say, I don't.
Well, gee.
To have you come, because the stuff that you're doing, the writing you're doing, I watch you on your broadcast quite frequently, because sometimes I forget about and take a nap, and I forgot to watch MAV. And I just found we have Uverse, and I just found about 6 months ago it was there. I could never find it. All of a sudden there it was. So I get to watch. Enjoy your work. Enjoy reading what you write. And if anybody hasn't gotten any one of the books with Jack Hewitt or Chris Economaki or Speedy Bill or The Lone Wolf or Let's Go Racing, I mean, the books he's got are phenomenal. If you haven't read one, get one. If you got somebody that needs a present for Christmas, buy it for them. They're great. What the heck's the matter with you? There's somebody here going like this. Oh, get you all worked up. Yeah, I can understand that. Just remember, you're never on hold with Beepline. Just remember that. Okay. So, if you haven't heard them play and you live on the west side, you got to come here on the 16th of November. Come on in, have dinner, have a couple cocktails, and then listen to the band. They're very good. So, anyway, thanks for being here. I hope you have some books that people will be interested in.
I do, yes.
And I'll bet you, without any prodding, you'll autograph it.
Absolutely. I even got a pen. I even brought a pen.
Wow.
How about that?
All right. Well, thanks for being here. And again, one of the fine motorsports writers around. I just am amazed at what you do. When you read about your story and how you started writing as a young kid and got all enamored about it and working at a gas station and drove for UPS, and here you are now an author of 16 books. Excellent. Good choice. I think you're better at this than driving a UPS truck.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be doing this and not driving that UPS truck. That's right.
But my friend that drives UPS was sitting over here. I don't know if he's still here or not. Thanks for being here, Dave. Remember, DaveAugerbright.com. You want to look up the books?
Thank you,
Do
guys.
it.
Thank you, Don.
We will be here next week. I hope that Ted, with my meager help, doesn't have to set everything up again, but apparently he knew what he was doing and he got it done, and I appreciate the heck out of it because he is wounded at the moment. Without Howdy Bell's help, Ted did it. We'll be here next week. I'm not sure who we're going to talk to, but find out who's in town. There's a number of drivers that are out doing other series around the country, around the world, actually. Well, but we'll be here. We'll have some good guests. So until next week, Don Kay saying thanks for listening, watching, and being here. Good night. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.